Welcome to Live Breathe Film, episode 109. You're here with Corey, Doug, and Murph. Thank you for joining us. Today we'll be recapping all the major film and television announcements from Disney's 2024 D23 fan event this past weekend. No reason to hesitate. Let's jump right into that D23 recap. So basically, over a 3-hour presentation, Disney ran through all the major subsections of the company when it comes to primarily film and television offshoots to a degree. So they talked about their Walt Disney Animation Studios, which is obviously their longest running aspect of the company. Avatar got its own little spotlight. They don't even label it as like James Cameron or like Lightstorm. It's just Avatar. And as of now, there's only the upcoming movie to talk about. Then you've got stalwarts like Pixar, Lucasfilm, Marvel Studios, and Disney live action, which when we get to, you'll see is for the most part their live action animation or their remakes of animated films department. But another interesting aspect is their pivot from dropping things on Disney Plus when it comes to films and giving theatrical releases to basically everything, which that I will say is a good thing. But let's start with their bread and butter, which is Walt Disney Animation Studios, and their recurring theme that we're going to talk about is their complete lack of originality and over reliance on IP. As we go through each of these branches of Disney, you're going to hear a lot of familiar names, and that basically means they are relying on nostalgia. So let's get right to the animated side. We won't talk too much about these, but we've got 3 sequels that they focused on. Each of these appear to be their films opening over the next 3 Thanksgiving periods, which are their most lucrative and standard period for dropping their animated films from the Walt Disney Animation Studios department. But we've got Moana 2 this November, Zootopia 2 in November of 2025, and Frozen 3, they gave a 2027 release date, didn't give an exact date, but it's going to end up being November just like the first 2. So Moana 2, we got a new trailer for that. The Rock showed up along with the actress who plays Moana. They didn't focus at all on the upcoming live action adaptation, which I believe it will be coming. They pushed back to 2026 to focus on put the focus on the animated movie, and I get the feeling that this will not be the final animated movie. It'll continue moving along this series, but we'll see how the box office does. What do you guys think? Did you guys check out the trailer? Have you seen the first movie? We've already gotten a teaser trailer for this. This was already this was like the big story trailer. And we've talked in the past that this was originally supposed to be an animated show, and they repurposed it into a movie with a larger budget, better effects, and getting the original voice cast back.
I mean, I was actually thinking about this the other day. I really enjoyed the first movie a lot, even though I was kind of bashing on the existence of this up until I saw the trailer.
Yeah.
Once I watched the trailer, I was like, oh man, I remembered how much I really dug the first one. So I liked it. It was a nice reintroduction, I guess. It didn't really show, I don't think, that much as far as, like all the characters that are going to be in it. It seems like it's just going to be mostly Maui and Moana.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks fun. I didn't get a vibe that it was originally a TV show like I thought I was going to. It seemed like the animation seemed really good.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Agreed.
it seemed like high quality along the lines of the first one. So I definitely excited. Definitely want to see it.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about like it not showing too much. I got the impression it was really only showing more of like the first half of the movie.
Hmm.
Like we didn't really see like any what they're going to be really coming up against. The big action set piece of the trailer was already showing characters from the first movie that they had previously had a confrontation with. So it seems like they didn't give too much away, which was nice for a second trailer. Um, Doug,
Yeah.
any
No, I
thoughts?
mean, yeah, I kind of just agreed with Corey. I was kind of looking for it to feel like a TV show. Um,
Or
and it
like a
didn't
direct,
really.
or even a direct-to-video type of Disney
Yeah.
movie, like of the
Hmm.
'90s or
Hmm.
2000s.
And I was thinking about that at the time, and I was like, I wonder why this doesn't feel like a TV show. And I was kind of thinking like Disney does TV shows differently than like TV shows typically do it, where Disney basically takes one story and cuts it up.
That's true. Very good
Whereas
point.
like other TV shows, like the TVs we're used to, like have their own story and they're like,
They're
you know,
episodic.
yeah, it's episodic. Whereas that's not really like a Disney TV show. So maybe it was one story cut up, and so they really just had to put it together and then improve the voice cast.
Yeah.
Maybe kind of cut out some parts where it made it feel overly long.
And
Maybe it wasn't as difficult as like we thought.
like with Disney Plus, you never know how many episodes you're getting or how long the episodes are going to be. So like, who knows? Like maybe they only had to trim it so much. Like maybe it was originally 6 20-minute episodes once the credits and opening credits and all the other various things that knock down the length that it shows on Disney Plus actually
Yeah,
make it, and they didn't really have to cut too much at all. I hadn't thought about that, but that's a great point. Um, yeah, as
but
far
yeah,
as the sorry,
I was just gonna say I kind of echo Corey. I thought it looked good. I don't not. I think the first one's good. Kids love it.
They do.
oh yeah, I mean it's a huge, like still massively successful on Disney Plus as like one of the regularly watched films.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a no-brainer to make a sequel.
Yeah, especially after the amount of slumps this animation department has had. I mean, their last big hit was Frozen 2, um, pre-pandemic. I think all they've had have been original films since then. So this is kind of like a guaranteed win for them. It's interesting how they're not releasing much this year, but everything they're putting out has been like crazy successful so far. So I imagine this will continue later this year.
I hope the music is it's. I don't think it's gonna be as good as the original. That was one aspect of it that I really liked of the original. But it'll be interesting to see how close they can get to the music of the first one.
Yeah, they need to come up with some bangers because that was a big part of the first one's success.
Lin Manuel was involved in the first one, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
and he's not involved in this one. So we'll see how the music comes out. He wasn't like the main creative force behind the music, like he's been with some other Disney projects, like Encanto. So they should be able to work around his absence. But that is an interesting aspect. Like they didn't have any new music in this trailer. The only references they like kind of had some references to like older songs as far as titles go and things like that. So yeah, hopefully they come up with some good original songs that The Rock can sing in his own interesting way, and along with the rest of the cast in their with their stellar singing voices. So, all right. November 2025, we've got Zootopia 2. At this point, that's 10 years since the first one, which is actually pretty crazy. Um, I guess the first one came out in the spring of 2016, so nearly 10 years. I remember we got that first trailer with Force Awakens at the end of 2015,
Oh wow,
that
yeah.
in front of everybody, and just like that the sloth at the DMV like got everyone cracking up, and I think played a major part in that movie making as much money as it did. but it's also one of the like I don't know smarter Disney animated films of the last decade or so during the John Lasseter era.
Has a lot of adult
doesn't
only
yeah
jokes.
yeah it's got like it leans more adult skewing where the adults can get more out of it. Doesn't it's not one of their musical films or anything like that. I mean, when you've got Jason Bateman in like the starring role, you know you're getting a sarcastic type of character who you can like visualize just like doing the role. But yeah, as far as news, what do we get? Ki Hu Kwan has joined the cast. He's going to be playing a lizard
Snake.
or snakes. Sorry, I knew it was some sort of reptile. And then yeah, I guess this will be time to the Zootopia 3D show opening up in Disney World. So there's a lot of synergy between the theme parks and the movies that they're putting out naturally, but it seems like more than there used to be, where like rides aren't going to fall out of style as quickly because they're always going to be in the consciousness of children with sequels and stuff coming out, like especially in like their lands and especially if they have like lands based around a movie, they want to make sure those stay relevant for a very long time because they don't get rid of things as quickly as Universal tends to.
And then they can plug in new stuff from those movies, into the rides or the park.
Exactly.
It's smart.
Yeah. No, it is. It is a smart way of going about it. I just think you need a balance.
Promotion.
Because if you don't do a balance, then what are you going to do in the future? You're not going to have anything new to create.
It's so different from like when we were kids, where like there would be like a new ride that would come out based on like a new movie or TV show, whatever, and then like that would be it for like 15 years.
Yeah, and it's just different in general. It's like how the Disney animation department worked as far as sequels. The sequels went direct to video. Like we only saw.
That's a good point.
There's Wreck-It Ralph or Ralph Breaks the Internet was the second Disney sequel in the animation department's history, and Frozen 2 was the third. The only one before that was The Rescuers Down Under when we were like, I don't know, it was like 1990, I want to say. So like in the entire history, one sequel, the first sequel came out when we were children, and they've been making movies since Snow White was 39 or 41, something like that. And now there's been 2 when we were adults, but now we got 3 coming up in the next 3 years. So yes, times have changed.
Yeah. The parks also, like, the rides weren't necessarily based on what was like new per se.
Also a good
like
point.
When you think about like Jaws and King Kong, and I mean those are properties that had been around but weren't necessarily.
Yeah, they focus more on classics, both Universal and Disney.
Universal has kind of abandoned that for the most part, though. They've tend to go with like what's new,
what's popular right now, and Disney even seems to be getting more into that, pivoting more into that direction, maybe at a lesser speed, and also based on when they acquire things. Like naturally, they acquired Star Wars, so they were going to build a Star Wars land. Avatar, they had the land before they owned Fox. But even by then, Avatar had been, I don't know, 7 years old, and we hadn't had. It was still another 5 years or so before Avatar 2 came out, and by that point, they owned Avatar. So they definitely work in different ways. But yeah, they need to. They're clearly starting to move more in that direction that Universal had made a hard turn into maybe 10, 15 years ago. All right, and then the last one was Frozen 3, which we mentioned. This one, I don't believe they showed any sort of
just like a concept.
I couldn't find
any real announcements.
A concept photo was the only thing I saw.
It was just like, hey man, you're getting Frozen 3, and they've also implied already that like we're going to be getting a Frozen 4. Like they have enough story for like 2 more movies. So they're this seems to be Disney's like ongoing series, a la Pixar and Toy Story. Except for Pixar spreads out their Toy Story movies
Yeah, I think
over so many years.
Frozen 4 they said was going to be like, it seemed like they were doing them back to back, right?
Okay,
Frozen 3 and then Frozen 4.
I didn't see that exact quote, but that makes sense based on what I've kind of been hearing with them saying they have too much story for just one more movie.
Yeah, I thought that's what they were doing to make sure that 3 and 4, yeah, it's like, seemed like it's going to be like a story told over 2 movies.
Gotcha. Well, I'm sure Frozen 3 will make a lot of money based on the first two. I don't think they're exactly Disney's best showcase, but it clearly works for the largest subset of fans that they have, which are young girls. So it makes sense that they don't connect with us the way that they do with them. But if it has a big single that they can put on the radio, all the better for them, because they've had a few popular songs from the first two so far. So we'll see what they come up with for the next one. But yeah, no original announcements when it comes to Walt Disney Animation. So I'm sure at Walt Disney, I do think about how disgusted he would probably be hearing all these announcements, and just everything that Disney's sort of doing nowadays. But it's a very different world than when he passed 50 years ago or whatever it was, 40 something years ago. So it is what it is. Anything else about Disney Animation, or should we move on to live action for a brief moment with Avatar?
No, nothing else for animation for me.
Live action, let's do it.
All right. So Avatar, as I said in the intro, had its own little portion of the show devoted strictly to the world of Pandora. James Cameron came out along with who is now a Disney legend. He was added to that club yesterday. He came out with Sam Worthington and Zoe Saldana to promote Avatar Fire and Ash, titled for Avatar 3. We had known that they were going to go into like a fire biome for this latest installment, similar to how they went to the water one in Avatar 2, and were in the rainforest one for the original Avatar film. But yeah, this one they say is coming out in December 2025 still. It seems like it should come out on time. They didn't show us anything.
Though?
I mean, they didn't show us anything. They showed us
that's a warning sign to me. Yeah. Like they had no footage.
They showed us concept art. They said it would be too early to show us stuff a year and a half prior to the movie coming out, which that is a long time prior. The Avatar movies have typically never shown a trailer until the summer, like any footage until the summer that the movie
they haven't finished anything
is coming out
that they can show.
I don't know.
I'm a little worried.
I guess we could be a little worried. I mean, when it comes to James Cameron...
James Cameron has a horrible track record.
When it comes to Jim Cameron and Avatar, I guess we have a reason to always be worried because his track record is very poor. He's definitely been doing better since under Disney. The movie's completely filmed, so it's really just all post-production.
That's not what the post-production's the issue.
What I'm more worried about is Avatar 4 and 5, and then going back having to film these movies, because I think they've only filmed the first third of Avatar 4 and none of 4 and 5, and none of 5, and still a lot more of 4 to film. So I'd be more worried about those ones being pushed back, but time will tell.
Do we get all these movies before 2030?
No, we already know we're not. Avatar 5 is scheduled for 2031.
Okay.
And I mean, he's already talked about like having idea. They've all been written, 1 through 5 or 3 through. Well, three's obviously been written because it's filmed. 4 and 5 are fully written, but he's already hinted at having like outlines for 6 and 7, but having to pass the baton to someone else at that point. He wants to make this a Star Wars / Star Trek type of series where it goes far past him and being in creative control or even being alive in the case of Star Trek or having any ownership as in the case of Star Wars. Like he wants this to live on in the pop culture world so far from now. So, I mean, I would expect down the road for spin-offs and TV shows. And obviously they branched off into various theme park worlds. We got one at Disney World prior to Disney even owning Fox or Avatar. Now we're getting a world in Disneyland, which is more based off Avatar, The Way of Water. So, I mean, I'm interested to see how Avatar 3 performs because obviously the second one performed kind of like a legacy sequel so far after the first one. What was it? 13 years after the original movie. So this one will be performing more like a standard sequel where it's on everyone's minds because there'll only have been a 3-year gap between movies if it does come out on time. So I'm interested what kind of box office it does in that regard. Obviously, the technological advances will be much less significant than between 1 and 2, or just the way 1 was when it originally came out in 2009. But yeah, we don't have much to talk about other than knowing James Cameron. What do you say? The movie's not going to be what you expect, but it's going to be what you want, I think was his quote, which is a very Jim Cameron-esque quote.
Yep. Exactly.
But it's got me curious to see what's to come. So you guys got anything?
He got you back.
Oh yeah, he's got me back. I'm fucking all in on Avatar.
You were so down on 2.
I was so down on, like, I'm just like, gotta see this movie. But yeah, that re-release helped. And then of the first one shortly before the second movie, and then the second movie like leveled up so much that I'm very, very excited for Fire and Ash.
I'm happy to see that they're still using the papyrus font so that we can get.
I thought of that too. I'm like, yes, Gosling will be back on SNL doing their papyrus.
They'll have to break it to Gosling's character in SNL that they're making a third one, and they still haven't changed the font.
Yeah, no, Gosling just needs a film to promote like right around the time Fire and Ash comes out. Honestly, I mean, get Gosling in one of these sequels. That'd be even better because they clearly don't have a full cast yet. They keep introducing new characters. They don't have a full cast for 4 and 5 yet. Bring in Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to. They should do a papyrus for every Avatar movie.
That's fine with me. Even the returns will be diminishing, as all SNL sketches tend to be. But
that doesn't stop them.
They'll still be very strong. So, yeah, I would be completely fine with that. All right. Not anything else really to talk about with Avatar, so let's move on to their other animation department, Pixar. So this is the one area of the company where we have some original creativity. It's a balance of original material and
that's
sequel / IP that we were already aware of. The only thing is we knew about most of these projects, the original ones especially. So like, I think they are going to go all sequel, but in the second half of the decade. But
there's
what were you gonna say?
I was just you were like kind of commending Pixar for like originals, but then I was like counting in my head all the sequels that they're coming out with too.
Yes. Well, look, they had six they talked about 6 projects. three of them are brand new. Granted, we've heard about two of them previously, and then two are sequels, and one is a spin-off TV show of a movie. So
But two of those sequels have had like endings where they should have probably ended the franchise.
I disagree with one of them. I don't.
Okay.
I agree with one of them. I disagree with one of them. One of them is designed to continue having sequels. One of them, it's a shocker that they continue to make new ones, and they give new endings regularly, where you're like, all right, they're never gonna make another sequel, and then they do. But we'll talk about their original material first. And if you look at post-pandemic, because technically Onward, it was 2020 and COVID started in December of 2019. They've done until Toy Story 5 comes out. They did 7.5 original movies to 1.5 sequel/IP. I count Lightyear as a 0.5 because other than being connected in IP, it was not a sequel. Like, it was an original story. So you've got Onward, Turning Red, Soul, Luca, this new one, Hoppers, Elio, Elemental, and then Lightyear, and then up against Inside Out 2 and Lightyear, if you count it as a half. So they've been like consistently original for the past 5 years. It's just that the world has changed. Disney's way of doing things has changed, and now they are pivoting back to their sequel mode that they were in for much of the 2010s.
So it's the only thing that's
makes money.
Yeah.
Makes gang money.
Yeah.
But it's eventually going to bite them in the ass.
Yeah. Just seems like Inside Out 2 probably further solidified.
It definitely did.
Where they need to go.
They needed a hit, and they had the wrong movie to be a hit, because it shows that, sequels are the ones that are hits. It's clearly not original movies. But like 3 of their movies debuted on Disney Plus. One of them came out. One of them we had locked down 2 weeks into its release. And then we had Lightyear, which wasn't necessary. And then Elemental eventually did break out. It just took a while. So, but yeah, I mean, now you've got Inside Out 2 as the biggest animated movie of all time, one of the 10 biggest movies ever. So we're getting a lot of sequels. Hooray. But we'll talk about the original ones first. So we've got Pixar's first ever original animated TV show, Win or Lose. This is a full-length episodic show that starts December 6th on Disney Plus. It's about a soccer team. Will Forte voices the coach of the team, and each episode revolves around a different player, and it seems like the style of animation and things like that will be kind of going in their own different direction based on the character it's following. The trailer looks pretty neat based on what we saw. They mentioned this originally, God knows how long ago, so it's been in the works for a very long time. So between it being an original product, their first full-length show, I'm excited to see how they do in this format, because so far all they've done are shows based off of, they're kind of like mini episode shows based off of previous concepts like Toy Story or Cars or Up. I think those were the 3 things that they've had TV shows for so far, and all of them varied in length from 5 minutes. So this is their first real TV show. So I'm excited to see that later this year. Did either of you see the trailer for that one?
I didn't see the trailer for that one.
Okay.
No.
Well, I feel like I've summarized it well enough, where you can check it out later and you can get an idea of of how it looks, and it seems like it's gonna be something worth watching later this year. Their other TV show, on the other hand, is a spin-off of Inside Out, titled Dream Productions. This comes out next year in 2025. It takes place in between Inside Out and Inside Out 2. So it's the department inside Riley's brain that comes up with the dreams that she has. I don't know how long these episodes are, if it's a full length similar to Win or Lose, or if they're more shorts based like their other shows, like standalone episodes or like a long running story but short episodes. I couldn't get confirmation on that, but I mean the concept sounds intriguing.
I thought so too.
Okay, nice.
I mean it seems like it's kind of like a movie studio
Yes.
concept
Mhm.
with the but it's like they're having to make dreams, so I'm assuming
And
like,
they have to make their budget. I read like they're
Yeah.
concerned about hitting their budget.
I'm
which is-
assuming it's a way to make fun of like movie studios and kind of do like a studio type show,
yeah,
but they're making dreams. They're not,
and yeah, they can probably be a little meta with things and have a lot of inside jokes about Hollywood that way. And maybe like hitting their budget means you only have like she's only gonna be asleep for this much longer. Like what can we come up with to get it out on time, or things like that. But yeah, I mean it says right under the title from the world of, or in the world of Inside Out, or from the world of Inside Out. So they're making that very clear that it is IP. But it seems like it's something that should perform very well for them next year on Disney Plus. Elio, they talk more about that original film. That's the one where a child gets abducted by aliens and they think he's kind of like the ambassador of Earth. This one was originally supposed to come out this year. We got a teaser trailer for it a while back. I think, was it the end of 2023 we got a trailer for it? Or even as far back as Elemental, we got the first trailer for it.
I remember hearing about this a long time ago.
I feel, yeah, I want to say it might have been all the way back when Elemental came out that we got the trailer for it. But yeah, it got pushed back to the summer of 2025. So that's their only release next year theatrically. Like I said, it's original. They announced that Zoe Saldana has joined the cast, so she was a major presence of D23. Despite the fact that she's out of the Marvel world, she was still there.
Away from Disney.
Yeah, despite the fact she's not in part of Marvel Studios anymore, unless they throw her some big money for to return for
which they
Avengers.
will, I'm sure.
Which yeah, who wouldn't be surprised if that happens?
Yeah,
she's at least part of Pixar and Avatar, and Avatar for the long haul. She'll be doing that until the 2030s. So that's really all we got as far as that film that we know is coming out. And then as far as their new announcements on the film side, we've got Hoppers, which is another new film. That comes out in March of 2026. The concept sounds very strange. I believe it's a girl going into the being programmed to go into the body of a electric beaver and then go into the world, like the animal world. It sounds super strange. But John Hamm is a voice actor in it. Bobby Moynihan, who used to be on SNL. And yeah, they showed one image from the film, to my knowledge. That's all they showed. And it looks like it's got some manic energy to it. But yeah, that's two originals coming from Pixar in theaters over the next 2 years. So excited for originality. But after that, that is when we go into sequel territory, and God knows when we'll get out of sequel territory. Um, the good thing is the two sequels they announced have some very exciting aspects to them. Um, we've got Toy Story 5 coming out the summer of 2026. That'll likely be a June release date, which is typically when they put out their films. That's really the big one. Um, they've confirmed that the whole gang's back, Woody and Buzz, despite the fact that Woody went off on his own with Bo Peep and those new carnival friends that he made at the end of Toy Story 4. But he very much is with Buzz and Jesse, Rex, Ham, Slinky Dog, etc. Potato Head might have been in the one concept art image that they showed as well. Probably was. He's back with them. So another ending undone in the Toy Story world after ending perfectly with 3 and pretty strongly with 4 as well. Not, I wouldn't say as strongly as 3, but
4 Woody felt kind of like Woody's Logan, where he was just kind of like, it was like the end of his story.
Yes, it did. Toy Story 3 felt more like an ending for like everyone, but even more so for like Andy's ending. And Toy Story 4 felt like Woody's ending. But yeah, they're done with that ending.
That
maybe
teaser,
it's the multiverse.
Yeah, right.
Maybe. That teaser that they showed made me laugh because it literally could have
no voices.
It literally could have been a teaser trailer for any of the movies that have came out prior.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal was with that trailer because I didn't even see it on any official channels from them. But I mean, I saw it on like Rotten Tomatoes and things like that. But yeah, it was a very generic, awkward little teaser. The one concept art image showed a lot more, which is the concept of the movie is toys versus technology, which kind of harkens slightly back to the first movie and how Woody was kind of antiquated compared to the Buzz Lightyear toy, which had sound effects and things like that. But this one is like a girl, I'm assuming it's Bonnie, underneath her sheets, like using a tablet or a cell phone. And the toys are like left behind because they're essentially irrelevant in this world. So it's an interesting concept. What has me most excited is Andrew Stanton coming back to Pixar to direct. He's directing his first Toy Story film. He's been a part of writing all 4 of them. He's directed classics like WALL-E and Finding Nemo. So, I mean, you couldn't put anyone really better in charge to do this movie. I didn't think he's done one sequel, and then it was Finding Dory, which I wasn't really a fan of. But I don't know. Nobody really knows Toy Story like him other than John Lasseter, who's no longer at the company. So I'm excited that he's back with Pixar and doing another movie because he has another live action movie, but that was coming out later, I think this year, but that's going straight to Hulu. So I think this was kind of his, just like Finding Dory was his kind of retreating back after having a live action bomb with John Carter. This is kind of him retreating back to Pixar for a guaranteed hit after having a movie that was intended to go to theaters go straight to streaming. Just like Pixar's kind of like his safe haven. But he's directed some great episodes of television and in between Dory and now Toy Story 5. He directed episodes of Better Call Saul, Legion, Stranger Things. So the guy does good episodic television. But
Stranger Things.
He hasn't had success as far as live action movies go yet. But yeah, Doug, you had mentioned that clearly it was something that was supposed to end. So do you have any? What are your thoughts on them continuing to milk the Toy Story franchise?
I mean, I don't have like a deep affection for
31 years after the original movie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a deep affection for it, so I'm okay with them. If they want to milk it and then they want to make money, that's fine. It just does seem like they keep kind of giving the story an end, and then they're like, never mind.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's gonna get to the point where all their supporting characters or the voices aren't alive anymore, and they're all gonna be like have to be recast or something. It's like it's sad, but like each movie in between, like each movie at this point, because they do have such long gaps, someone seems to pass away. Um, so that's kind of a problem, but I don't know.
who did they lose on this next one?
Well, so far they've lost Jim Varney, who did.
He died after the first one, right?
He died, I believe, after the second movie because there was only a 4 year gap in between one and two. Um, and he did Slinky Dog. Then,
Ham.
then
Right.
now John Ratzenberger's still alive.
Oh, okay.
Rickles died.
Don Rickles died in between three and
Mm.
four. He did Mr. Potato Head. I think actually nobody. Oh, Estelle Harris, who played Mrs. Potato Head, passed away. I want to say in between, since four has come out. Yeah, she died in 2022, also known as Stanza from Seinfeld. So that's another one that has passed away. So like the original cast just keeps on unfortunately passing away because again, 30 something years since the first movie is pretty wild. But I mean, ultimately, you get Tom Hanks and Tim Allen back. That's what kind of matters the most. It seems like Tim Allen's presence is going to be emphasized a lot more in this one than it was in the fourth, which I'm very happy about because he kind of got sidelined in the fourth and then got completely sidelined with the Lightyear movie with Chris Evans replacing him. They did show a little thing that Andrew Stan said that they're going to have to worry about these commemorative anniversary Buzz Lightyear dolls that won't turn off of toy mode. And they had like an army of them on a video screen. They all had like a red light, like they're controlled by technology. So that could be a lot of fun. It will be a lot of fun because anytime they mess with Buzz and kind of brewing around with his personality, whether he's in Spanish mode or something else, or he goes into the aisle of the toy store and encounters ones that still think they're toys, it always pays off like very strongly. So that seems like it will be pretty cool. So again, with Toy Story, I love this series. Every time they announce a sequel, I'm like, it's completely unnecessary, but they really haven't done me wrong yet. So my hopes are still high.
I remember seeing 3 and being like, wow, that's the end of an era.
Yeah.
It's done. And that was like
Nope.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
12 years ago.
Yeah, no.
Right.
I mean, it came out in 2010. That was the end of Pixar's original golden run, was Toy Story 3. That's the next movie that followed was their first critical and box office. Absolute critical whiff, but a box office misfire, I would say, compared to expectations with Cars 2. But yeah, that's it for Toy Story 5. And then we have the big announcement, Incredibles 3. Brad Bird coming back to write and direct, which is huge. You can't do an Incredibles movie without Brad Bird at the helm. He is the creative genius behind those two films. Now, this is the one, Doug, where I said I don't think we got an ending with Incredibles 2. This is something where I feel like they can just keep on going because it's a superhero movie.
Yeah, that movie kinda just ended.
Superhero movies, like, naturally continue. They didn't really have, I don't recall a real ending to 2. My issue with 2 is that it just felt too similar to 1. They just flipped the script and made Helen the main protagonist who was dealing with the bad guys and like the one really going out as the costumed hero and not watching the kids versus Bob doing it. I'm hoping for something more original when it comes to the story for Incredibles 3, and not just sort of twisting the formula of the first one just slightly. But I think they can make a really good threequel. If they come up with something.
It's going to be more
original.
than a threequel.
You mean, like you think there'll be more after 3?
Probably.
Second to me is
Yeah, I mean, I
20.
wouldn't be exactly. Incredibles 2 is the biggest animated movie of all time in the U.S. until Inside Out 2 this summer. So between it being a Pixar sequel and a comic book or a superhero movie, it's bound to make money. And yeah, this can be Brad Bird's safe haven that he can always go to if something doesn't work out for him. He had this big handwritten movie that he'd been looking forward to making that had gotten reduced to becoming a CG movie that hasn't come out yet. Now he's going back to Pixar to do Incredibles. Him and Andrew Stan, they like to mix things up, but they ultimately go back to Pixar and seemingly do sequels to big hits that they've been involved with if things outside of their Pixar career aren't going necessarily the way they want, which good for them. They can stretch their legs in different ways and ultimately come back home. Yeah, I think this is one where absolutely they can make a sequel and it can feel justified. I have heard rumors that they're already in the works on sequels to like a Finding Nemo 3 and a Monsters Inc. 2. Now those are two completely unnecessary sequels in my mind.
Finding Dory wasn't even good.
I thought Finding Dory wasn't good, and Monsters Inc. had a perfect ending, which is the reason why they made a prequel to Monsters Inc. versus making a sequel.
I was gonna say I had thought they made a sequel, but you're right, it was a prequel.
Yeah. I don't even remember it, really.
But they're going all in on the future aspect for the new Monstropolis world that they're making in Hollywood studios. So shocker, synergy, they're making a world about Monsters Inc. in Disney World. They're going to make a new Monsters Inc. movie, and it's a world that takes place after the original movie. And they have a Toy Story land at Disney. They're going to continue making Toy Story movies so that land stays as relevant as possible. They have an Incredibles roller coaster in Hollywood studios. They're making a Coco ride. We're going to probably end up getting a Coco sequel before we know it. Now that I haven't heard anything about, but it just wouldn't shock me.
I'm surprised they just didn't turn the Epcot ride in Mexico into a Coco ride, since
I feel like it's only a matter of time.
They put Coco stuff now all in the
Yeah.
entrance before you go into Mexico. It's all Coco.
If they don't, I feel like it's their only concern is that they can't handle the amount of people that would be going into it. It would just be too unwieldy, the line, because of how that building is set up.
But just gotta keep it to Three Amigos or whatever the hell they're Padres.
That doesn't really have demand. But it would seem natural because they've already turned Norway into a Frozen ride. They added a Ratatouille ride to France. Coco just makes sense. It just makes sense to continue through putting IP rides into the World Showcase section of Epcot. Mm-hmm. And naturally, we're talking about Disney World a lot, and not the other various parks, just because we're all on the East Coast.
Isn't there already a Coco ride?
Not. There's just a lot of Coco themed stuff in the Mexico
pavilion. That's what I remember.
But not a ride yet. But they're doing a ride in Disneyland.
The three, it's like Donald Duck and then two other.
Yeah, that's what I okay.
But yeah, they announced a Coco ride for Disneyland in the Pixar themed area of the park in California Adventure, which will be similar in style to Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean, as a water ride, boat ride. So that'll be coming in the future. And then there's plenty of Finding Nemo aspects in the parks. So, and Finding Dory was a massive success, so no surprise if they make a sequel to that. But all right, we spent a lot of time talking about Pixar and how they are moving into sequel territory all over again. Got deja vu with that. So let's move on to Lucasfilm, which they focused on 3 projects. I was surprised we didn't get any new projects announced. Sorry, what did I miss, Doug?
I don't know. You might be taking it in a different section, but are we going to talk about the live action remakes that they
Oh
showed?
yeah, yeah, we will. We'll we'll get back to that because there were a bunch of films that they announced on the live action front. But we'll pivot to Lucasfilm, get out of the just the Disney world for a little bit. Um,
Okay.
how similar to how we stepped out of their animation and went into Avatar for a little bit. Um, so Lucasfilm, I was surprised no original announcements were made. They focused on um, three different things, two TV shows, and finally they're back in the world of movies. Granted, all it is a continuation of one of the TV shows. Um, so not much or only so much originality here. We'll start with the closest thing to an original, which is Skeleton Crew, their new TV show that debuts on Disney Plus on December 3rd. We did get a trailer for that one, which we've all seen. Looks very much like an Amblin type of film from the
Mm-hmm.
80s.
Very
It
much.
it's created by John Watts, who did the Spider-Man Homecoming trilogy,
Yep.
and Christopher Ford, who I believe who's worked with John Watts. I'm not really sure what his background is, and then they said it's produced by Favreau and Filoni. So it does take place during the Mandoverse timeline that we've seen post Return of the Jedi, um, and way prior to Force Awakens and the sequel trilogy. But yeah, we've got Jude Law as a Jedi, or a Jedi. We can call him that. And then we've got what looks like, what is it, four kids going on an adventure around the galaxy. Um, I dug the opening, which had a very similar vibe to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, where they go to that world that looks like an Earth type world, with just
Mm-hmm.
with like normal looking homes, like the suburbs. But then you're like, and then it's like, oh, there's aliens and other things of the Star Wars world that are here. That was cool. We've yet to see that in any sort of Star Wars project. Um, I was saying to Corey, it's kind of got a killer lineup of directors. It's got the directors of Everything Everywhere All at Once are doing an episode. The director of Twisters and Minari is doing an episode. Bryce Dallas Howard is doing an episode. The director of Thunderbolts, who directed a bunch of Beef season 1, is doing an episode. Um, John Watts is doing a bunch. So it's got a lot of talent behind the camera. Um,
Yeah.
this does seem outside of the Acolyte like their most original TV show, um, because it's not focused on characters that already exist, like Obi-Wan, Boba Fett, etc., or characters that very much remind you of other characters, like The Mandalorian reminds you of Boba Fett, and Ahsoka being a character that existed already. So while it clearly is going to have characters um, cross path, like from other TV shows, likely come about if it takes place during the Mandoverse era, and eventually they do plan to do some final film that ties all these projects together. There will be cross pollination, but so far, like, I'm digging the vibes and how it looks more like Super 8 and the Amblin movies and Stranger Things than something Star Wars.
Yeah, I really like the trailer.
Yeah, I thought it looked fun. I mean, it is a little weird. Like I saw people pointing out, and I was like, yeah, it does. That part is a little weird. That like the suburbs, and then like were they riding bicycles?
Well, they're on speeder bikes
Yes.
at one point. I'm not
Okay,
sure if they're ever on bicycles.
I could have just inserted the bicycles because they belong in this in this trailer.
That's fair. That's very fair.
Um, but yeah, it does feel like a little less Star Wars than Star Wars has ever felt before. But in some way, in that, especially that beginning suburbs type scene. But yeah, I mean, if they do
they
like an
stumble on a
Amblin,
Jedi temple.
yeah, and then it's off to fly in the ship and go on their adventure. Yeah, I mean, I like Amblin style movies. I like Stranger Things and all that. So I like that vibe. So I like the trailer. It is kind of it's kind of funny just kind of when you think about that tone inserted into Star Wars, just because
Yeah,
it's a very specific, like 80s kids growing up in the 80s
yeah,
tone to it. But I'm
yeah.
for it.
But I mean, ultimately, Lucas and Spielberg they jived well together doing Indiana Jones. So we shall see. One director I forgot to mention, David Lowery. He's doing another episode. He's known for either doing A24 movies or live action adaptations of Disney projects like Pete's Dragon and Peter Pan and Wendy. So yeah, a very eclectic group of directors. Some that have some Star Wars experience, like Bryce Dallas Howard has directed episodes of Mandalorian. I believe Lee Isaac Chung has directed, the director of Minari and Twisters, has done episode as well, an episode or two of Mando as well. But yeah, I'm from what they've shown and what I've heard, this seems like it's got a promise. Um, Next up, we've got the big one on television, Andor season 2. This is, I would say, probably one of the two things we are all the most excited about for that came out of D23. And that is, we'll get to the other one later, but I mean, it's Andor season 2. We know that it's taking place over 4 years, the 4 years prior to Rogue One. While season 1 of Rogue One all took place over 1 year, 5 years before Rogue One, this one is going to have four different blocks of 3 episodes, where each take place over a year. Even though Rogue One or Andor had its own little aspect where it had kind of like four arcs of 3 episodes, they just all took place total over a year. But characters from Rogue One are coming back. We know Ben Mendelsohn is reprising his role as the villain from Rogue One. We know Alan Tudyk is coming back as the droid he voiced K2 in Rogue One. All the cast from Andor is returning that survived. So tons of talent there, led by Diego Luna. Or are you most excited about, Doug, that you either heard or saw in the leaked footage?
I think the most exciting thing is just seeing more of how the rebellion plays out. I think we got the start of it, and that was to me one of the most exciting things about the first season of this. So I think just kind of seeing how that plays out more as kind of just this thing that's built to a crescendo in the first one, just kind of they indicated that it's going to kind of ramp up way more in this next season, and I think that's going to be really cool to watch. So I think that's probably the thing I'm most excited to see.
Yeah, I think what I'm most excited about is that Diego Luna was saying that after you watch this season, like after you watch the series finale, because this is only a 2-season show, he's like, space out 2 hours immediately to watch Rogue One, and like, because it leads directly into Rogue One, and he's like, you're gonna look at the movie like a little bit differently than when you originally saw it after seeing all the events of Andor. It seems like this is pulling off the prequel / spinoff in a similar way to Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, where you're going to be looking at like the original piece differently after having watched the prequel, because they did such a good job with the prequel and kind of revealing aspects of characters and the world that we were unaware of when we watched the original entity.
Yeah, that's true, because season 1 kind of felt like its own thing in
Yeah.
a lot of ways. And I'm not a huge Rogue One fan. Like, I thought it was fine.
I'm not the
So,
biggest either. Like I'm less than a lot of Star Wars fans. I was good, but it's
yeah.
not like at the top of my list of things Disney has made Star Wars wise.
So I'll be really interested to see if that changes it for us, where we go back and watch it and say, "Wow, this really elevated that movie."
Yeah, I got a feeling it's going to. Um, and then they said Forrest Whitaker is returning, who was in both season 1 and Rogue One.
Oh.
Um, yeah, Saw Gerrera. Um, but yeah, and Corey, anything in specific about Andor? Because I think you more like me, where you didn't really have much anticipation for Andor because we were kind of like burnt out on all the Star Wars shows at that point in time,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
we didn't start it like right away like Doug did. And Doug was like, "Watch the show, watch the show, watch the show." Like this one's different, and you were right. It is different, both to any
so
show
annoying.
before or since then.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely, I still very much am like burnt out on a lot of the shtick that they've been doing as of late, especially when it comes to Mandalorian. But this, when I finally did watch it, yeah, it was a breath of fresh air, and I loved it. Probably my favorite Star Wars television show, that miniseries, whatever that they've put out at this point.
It's hilarious because it's the least Star Warsy
Yeah.
thing that Disney has put out.
Yep.
Um,
That's why
and
it's so good.
I mean, people, it's
A lot of people
a lot of people say this is the best Star Wars
Yeah.
since The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. We'll see how. Obviously, it needs to have a equally strong second season, but that's crazy impressive.
I also think that a lot of people haven't even watched it yet. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it was like the lowest rated of the Star Wars shows.
I know a ton of people that have not watched season 1, so it's weird. But yeah, I mean, I don't have anything
It
specific.
just didn't seem necessary.
No.
Like
No.
a spinoff of a side character from a prequel to the original movie like that's also a prequel. It just
Very weird.
I don't know.
concept.
Didn't have like an instant hook to draw people in.
And on top of it, it's based on a movie that had massive issues in production, and we are lucky that we even got it to begin with after what happened. Not to mention it actually ended up being good. So, yeah, I mean, what you guys said about the trailer, I agree. I don't really have anything additional to say, other than it's going to be interesting to see what characters from that time period, either from Rogue One or from maybe other things that around that time period, appear.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe we'll get Vader. That would be interesting. We could. So it's cool.
Yeah, Vader is definitely a possibility.
I mean,
I
especially if Mendelssohn's in it.
We're going too heavy on Vader for you.
Yeah, let's just try to like tie it into Rogue One, and I don't need Luke to show up. I don't need Vader to show up.
You want
I guess Luke
the
wouldn't
human
show up,
character,
but
the non-Jedi characters of Rogue One basically to show up, or non-Sith ones. Nobody that uses a lightsaber.
Do we
just-
see
yeah,
Jyn
just-
Erso?
just the ones from Rogue One are fine. And I get that Darth Vader technically is in Rogue One, but like not really.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
It's just
and
that,
he shows up. I mean, he shows up in a couple scenes, but I mean, his tour de force scene is right before A New Hope begins, which makes sense that he would be in that scene.
Yep.
As for will Jyn Erso show up, I do not know. If she does, she couldn't appear in a scene with Cassian.
No.
So I don't know. All right. The final piece, Corey, you mentioned it. You mentioned it already. The Mandalorian. So we are now getting the Mandalorian movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu. Oh yeah, Andor will be coming out in 2025. I get the idea that I believe it's earlier in 2025, like the springtime. But let's move to May of 2026 and move to the big screen with the Mandalorian and Grogu. So we got a leak trailer. What do we know? And we got a snow planet. We got so maybe it's Hoth. We got AT-ATs.
ATSTs.
We've got Mando kind of taking on Grogu as his little sidekick apprentice in the bounty hunting world. And then what else? What else do we really get out of that trailer? We got the Babu Frick, either that character or other in his species from Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. So, we got that, and I don't even remember, I'm being completely honest with you, that character, that purple Jedi character.
Oh, Zeb from Rebels. The only main character from Rebels that wasn't in Ahsoka. Okay. He's making his live action appearance.
I didn't remember if he was from a video game or from a cartoon. He just looked familiar, and people were like freaking out over it.
Yes.
So I knew it was.
They mention him in Ahsoka, so here's where he is during the Mandoverse era that Ahsoka is also in.
Didn't he show up in Mando season?
I didn't watch season 3.
I didn't watch season 3 yet, but
I'm pretty sure he shows up in season 3, for like a second.
Okay.
That's cool.
I don't know if that was like a spoiler for you, Murph, but I didn't.
Don't
really
care.
See
don't care if it was.
Yeah.
I remember reading about what happened in season 3 at the time because I was like, I'm probably never gonna watch this. So no, I don't care.
Pretty sure he shows up for like a second.
But I've changed my mind since. I will watch season 3 before this movie comes out.
It's not good. So
yeah. I mean, my expectations are low. I mean, I'm the same person who went back to watch the few episodes of Book of Boba Fett that I skipped over earlier this year.
I think I said the same thing. Like, it's
yeah,
not
you
good.
did. So just to be with incredibly low expectations, they aren't the worst things in the world. And that's just how I'm going to go.
This is how it works.
I
tell you not to watch the shitty stuff, and you go and watch it, and then I try to get you to watch like good stuff like Andor, and you're like, nah, I'm not going to watch it. I'm good.
But I do, and then I confirm that they actually are that good. You did it with Andor. You did it with Severance. I guess for the great stuff, I need to be like in the mood for. Even with the shitty stuff, I need to be in the mood to watch them. But I go in with the expectations that I have. You know my taste. If you tell me I'm going to like Andor or Severance, I'm going to like them. I have to be in the mood to watch them. And you tend to be right with the things I'm not going to like as well. But again, I lower the expectations so accordingly that I can get through them without suffering the same way you do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, keep those Mando season 3 expectations pretty low.
No, they're low as hell. And you know I was lower on Mando 1 and 2 than you were, so
this is the lowest for sure. This is the worst season by far.
Wow, worse than 2? Damn.
Well, all right.
I like 2.
I like 2 more than 1.
I liked.
So I don't know. Maybe we'll see how this plays out. But as far as Mando and Grogu, so Pedro Pascal hasn't even shown up to set. Clearly,
hilarious
with all the other work he's doing. If this movie's currently being filmed, like he must have gone straight from Last of Us into Fantastic Four, and Gladiator was somewhere in there.
I was thinking, I wonder if he did any VO for this, or if that was just sound bites from previous
I don't know.
movies. Because he didn't really talk. He said a couple things.
But yeah, like he's going to show up on set for like maybe a week at max to take off his helmet and do some stuff, and then do voice work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But that's it for him. Do we think the visuals looked any better than the TV show? Like, are they using stagecraft, or are they actually like going on location for this TV show?
It was hard to say, but what we saw looked really cool, but it was hard to tell if the quality was a level up. From what I heard of people that were there and saw it live, they said it looked incredible. Like the special effects looked incredible.
Yeah, it looked like they were filming like off of a soundstage.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it was on location.
All right, so they're upping the production. Unfortunately, it's the same creative team as the TV show. What is it? We've got Favreau directing, and then Favreau and Filoni are co-writing. Is that
I think so.
Probably.
how it's working out? Man.
I mentioned this to you the other day, Murph. My biggest problem
Yes,
with
that is correct.
my biggest problem with this movie is since it's based on a TV show, I think it's gonna be jarring seeing these characters go from, and I don't know how they're gonna do it, but for it to be successful in the other way, but for it to go from TV show quality and then to movie quality and it not be jarring.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing that I always have issues with these types of transitions, either from TV to film or film to TV. Like we saw it with Marvel, with the TV and movies, where it was very jarring, even if it was like smaller scale. But once they started to do special effects and stuff, it was very jarring. So with this, I wonder how they're going to transition people into, seeing these characters in a leveled up format and it not be weird.
My assumption is, well, obviously it's just going to have to level up and people are going to have to get used to it. The issue would really be if they decide to level down and make a Mandalorian season 4. My expectation is they're likely not going to make a season 4.
That would be, I don't think so.
And the follow-up for them will be when they do Dave Filoni directing his movie that concludes the entire Mandoverse of Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, Mando, and Boba Fett.
I don't know how they could go back to TV. That would be, I think, impossible.
Yeah, it's weird to me when you do a movie in the middle of a TV show, like Simpsons, South Park, X-Files, et cetera,
right.
On the big screen. But we'll see in May 2026. Based on them filming and everything now, I kind of have a feeling the release date will get pushed up, but we'll see. But if nobody has anything else to say about Lucasfilm, we can move on to Disney's live action portion, and then we'll conclude things with Marvel. All right, Disney live action. So first half of it is devoted to live action adaptations of cartoons, previously animated films. First up, we've got Mufasa the Lion King opening this December. So this is technically an original story. That's a prequel of going slightly a Godfather 2 type way of doing a prequel to the 2019 live action film, while also being told from the characters after the 2019 film took place. So you'll have Timon and Pumbaa in it. You'll have Donald Glover as Simba, Beyonce as Nala, their child played by Blue Ivy, Beyonce's daughter. But then primarily the story is focused on the relationship between Mufasa and Scar before he is Scar. Did you guys watch the trailer to this one, the new trailer?
I didn't actually watch the trailer, but I saw like snippets of it.
Okay.
I know the synopsis, but I didn't actually watch the full trailer.
Gotcha.
I don't like the story. They're like completely.
I didn't like the first one.
They're kind of they're retconning the Hamlet aspect of the story.
And they went like
sort of turning it into a Moses-y type story.
Yeah, it's just weird. They're saying like Scar was supposed to be king.
Yep.
And he was like the child.
Mufasa's adopted.
And Mufasa was like some other cub that Scar saved. And so then now it's kind of like, it makes you kind of feel like Scar gets fucked over.
Yeah.
For helping out this Mufasa character.
Clearly, we're going to have to see how the movie plays out, but it does look that way as of now.
Whereas, like before, I'm pretty sure they were brothers, right? They were
brothers,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, you could still be they're still brothers. Like Mufasa clearly going to be.
But they were like
they're bros.
They weren't. They weren't
also
like adopted brothers though. They were like brothers.
no, they were brothers, but they also looked completely different shades of color. Um, like Scar is like an orangey color, and Mufasa is like the Simba color, like the yellow. So I don't know. Take
Yeah,
that
I
for
have,
what.
I
Take
have
that
two
for what it
dogs
is.
that are completely
That's
different
true.
colors.
Good point. You got good point. I mean, one kid can look more like the mom, one kid could look more like the dad. So whatever. Yes, they are going. They're telling their own unique story, like that they have not told before in like direct to video Lion King stories or anything like that. Um, they didn't show the entire movie, which I'm excited. Like they didn't show any of Scar being bad, and like how they're going to end up having this rift. Why Mufasa is going to be the one that ends up being destined to be king. They did show Mads Mikkelsen off as the bad guy, the bad lion who's trying to destroy the circle of life and the whole pride, trying to kind of destroy the pride that they are both in at that point. Um, so it's doing its own thing, which I respect. Barry Jenkins is certainly more talented than um, Jon Favreau as a director. It unfortunately does have the same writer as the first one, but again, he was sort of just adapting the animated movie while this is doing its own thing. So we'll see if that makes a difference. What most concerned me was I really couldn't tell the difference between Scar and Mufasa.
Yeah, they do look very similar.
While it's so easy to tell differences in cartoons, they just aren't able to pull it off in this live action computer animated way.
One was like slightly like lighter in color than the other one.
I wasn't getting it enough. Like it wasn't as different as it should have been.
They need to give him like a scar pretty early on.
Like, yeah, exactly. I'm gonna be like, who's playing who this entire time? Because they look way too similar. That was my biggest issue. Also, John Oliver wasn't voicing Zazu. Was my other thing, but maybe it's a younger Zazu, and you never see the the older version of him in the sequel aspect. In which case, then fine for no John Oliver. But we got Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner back, like I said, as Timon and Pumbaa, and Donald Glover and Beyonce, and the actor who played Rafiki is back as well. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Comes out in December. While being a live action adaptation, at least it's somewhat original. Next, we've got Snow White coming out in March of 25. This one was pushed back from this last spring of 24, so it got pushed back a full year, similar to how Elio got pushed back by Pixar by over a full year. We did get a trailer for it. We are getting dwarves, so the internet can stop fucking crying about them. They're not having dwarves and being too politically correct.
There was a lot of like speculation online of like they just did like a Sonic and
I don't know.
They like had this complete other version of Snow White and then they just like because there wasn't supposed to be dwarves, right? Or that was the rumor?
No, it was magical creatures.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be dwarves.
And the fucking
internet freaked out.
Right-wing internet was exploding with fury.
Yeah.
While at the same time, Peter Dinklage, who is a dwarf, was also like, all right, aren't we past the point where we should be having like dwarves as like these like sidekick characters? Like, this is kind of ridiculous. But they
found a solution, which is they're like CGI characters.
CGI, yeah, they're CGI dwarves.
The CGI looks awful,
and they're not in the title. But I mean, so far it's looking like Snow White for the most part.
Looks like
I think the CGI
exactly like Snow White.
Yeah,
like it looks like
Snow White. Like, yes,
I saw a lot of people making fun of the fact that they made like Rachel Zegler look like horrible. with the hair and all that. They tried to give her like the original Snow White
They
hair.
are making her
Wait.
look like her 1939 character or whatever, 41 character. Let me look because I keep mentioning the year Snow White.
And then-
1937. Yeah, they're making her look
And then
like her old school character.
And then they're making Gal Gadot look like a smoke show, and people are like, "What?" Like,
I have seen that complaint. Like, yo, the Evil Queen's hotter than Snow White. What's up with that? What does she have to
then
worry
they're-
about?
so they're just
And yeah, like you have a Latina actress who's Snow White is supposed to have what skin, like the fairest skin as white as snow, or her skin as fair as snow, or something like that. Whatever, who cares? She's different ethnicity. As long as she gets the essence of the character off, that's all that matters. Which she seems to from the trailer. We see some
those comments
from the trailer.
The comments were funny on that, but it
Yeah,
was
there
more
are-
just
there-
because of the hair that they gave her.
There have
Like,
definitely been funny comments.
But yeah, they probably didn't need to go with like the original Snow White haircut from the 30s or whenever that movie came out.
Yeah, they probably didn't have to, but they did, and we'll see how it pans out next year. I mean, Disney does not have a good track record with their live action adaptations, so I would go in with low expectations because it probably isn't going to be that good. Ultimately, these are good ways to get people to go back and watch the original animated films. They're kind of like big budget marketing for the original versions, where they also make money back by putting out these new versions. So I see why they do them, but they're never replacing the original ones, so people can stop getting in a tizzy about them because they're not deleting the original ones. The original ones are always going to be the ones that people go back to. These just
they still throw them in the vault though, right?
No, the vault doesn't exist anymore.
That was a marketing.
The vault doesn't
The
exist.
vault's gone. The vault is nothing.
No. Can you imagine they did that digitally? Like, watch Snow White before it goes
Nothing-
back into the vault.
Yeah,
Disney Plus.
nothing leaves Disney Plus as far as their major movies.
Oh, really? They don't vault them at all
They
anymore?
don't vault shit. Vault's a thing of the past. Bob Iger is in vaulting. This isn't the era where people had to buy a VHS like 5 years later or whatever before, or they would have to wait, or they'd have to wait for a re-release to be in theaters in order to see it again. You can see these movies whenever you want.
They used to be like, gotta catch it now before it goes back in the vault.
Yeah, it's only going back in the vault in September. You gotta buy that VHS.
No, Bob Iger fucking blew that vault door open and they didn't replace it. So, yeah, don't worry about that. The 1937 Snow White will be available for anyone to watch whenever they want to watch it. But then moving to modern day, they're already remaking movies from the 2000s. Like I said, they didn't talk about Moana, but they did talk about Lilo and Stitch. That one is one that is coming out next summer 2025 in theaters. This was one that I never knew if we got confirmation if it was going to be a Disney Plus one or a theatrical one, but it's theatrical. It looks like all their movies now are going to be theatrical.
Who's playing Lilo?
I do not know. I know Zach Galifianakis is in the cast. I'm not sure if he's Stitch or if he's another character. I believe the voice actor actually who did Stitch is returning to do Stitch.
That's
and
cool.
Zach Galifianakis is just a live action character. But yeah, I'm not sure he's playing Lilo, just like I'm not sure who's playing the new Moana in the live action.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to say the actress's name because I'll probably butcher it, but it does seem to be like a Hawaiian.
Yeah, that makes sense. So similar to how they're going with like Pacific Islander to play Moana.
Yeah.
So yeah, but we're now getting movies from the 2000s in live action because we're that desperate. Granted, Lilo and Stitch are incredibly popular.
This little girl, like, seems like she'll fit the part pretty well.
She's like perfect.
All right.
Yeah.
That's good.
But yeah, we got a look at what Stitch looks like in CG.
Looks good.
He looks good. He looks good. But we didn't get it. Yeah, we got nothing else out of it. So we got a release date. We know it's theatrical, and we know what Stitch looks like. That's
Yeah.
really all we got out of Lilo and Stitch from D23.
They seem to keeping Stitch like more cartoony, which I don't know if that's because of there's no real animal, but kind of wish they would do that for the Lion King.
With more stuff, yeah.
Because
Um,
yeah, just like I don't know, these friggin' lions that just like look
that
like
don't
lions.
they don't emote. Like it's, I don't know. It's weird. But on the non-adaptation front, but still all sequels and IP, we've got Tron Ares. So we got the sequel to Tron Legacy, the third chapter in the Tron trilogy, which, shocker, is another thing that can boost a ride. Because Disney World got the new Tron ride only a couple years ago. But yeah, we've got Jared Leto in this one. He is an AI from the computer world coming into the real world. So this is the first time that it's not people going into the computer world or video game world of Tron, but them coming out into the real world, which I think is kind of a cool gimmick. Jeff Bridges is back. He's old, so I'm assuming it's his original character from the first one, because I think Tron Legacy had two versions of him. They had a de-aged version and a older version. Not sure
Sounds right.
not exactly sure what his situation is with this one is, but he's in it. Evan Peters looks like he's somewhat of a bad guy, as like um, a someone in charge of an AI company who's clearly going to lead to issues with AI. And Greta Lee is in it from Past Lives. She's the female lead. But yeah, it's cool seeing the light cycles going down the streets in the real world. Um, Nine Inch Nails is doing the music. That was announced. It's interesting that this is the first movie that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are doing that is billed as Nine Inch Nails and not Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. So they're kind of going the Daft Punk route of Tron Legacy and just using the band name versus their individual names. So my guess is the sound is going to have more of that industrial rock sound of Nine Inch Nails than anything that they've done so far in soundtracks ever since they collaborated on The Social Network. Because they are the only two members of Nine Inch Nails. So I'm excited to hear their soundtrack because they've killed it on so many films so far. I think that was the most excited aspect I was about this film. But anything else jump out to you about Tron?
At this point, I don't know. Interested to see. They filmed this already, right? Or like
Yeah, they filmed it. It comes out, I believe, October of 2025.
All right, so it should be. We'll get a trailer. Maybe not this year, but we'll get something. Probably Super Bowl
Yeah,
next year.
probably by then. Maybe with Mufasa if they're feeling dangerous. If they like to live dangerously.
Yeah, maybe.
Or just fucking drop it because it's already leaked all over the internet. Like, put a nice version of it out.
I mean, a lot of that shit though leaked all
Oh,
over
I
the
didn't even
internet.
see the. I didn't see the leaked one for this.
Oh yeah, no. Everything that's leaked, I've seen everything. I think Doug's seen everything. They put a lot of official stuff out, but then everything that's leaked, it's very easy to find everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, Tron. Then we got Freakier Friday, the official title to Freaky Friday 2 with Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan. We saw some images. I don't think we got any footage from it.
Yeah, they just
just
started
images.
filming.
From what it sounds like, there's going to be a lot of different body switching in this one. Lindsay Lohan's a mom. Her character's a mom in this one. She's married to Manny Jacinto from The Good Place and The Acolyte. So he should be funny in it. But yeah, it looks like Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan have their chemistry rapport still intact from the original 20 something years ago. And it's going to theaters again. This is one that under the Bob Chapek era definitely would have went to Disney Plus. Hocus Pocus 2 should have went to theaters, would have made them a ton of money.
Yeah.
But it didn't. They're they're course correcting by putting movies that previously would have gone to Disney Plus into theaters. And I think this will make a good amount of money for them when it comes out. I believe next summer, Doug? Does that sound right to you?
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, it should be if they just started filming now. I mean, there's not a lot of CGI or anything you'd have to do production wise.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to say it's summer 2025 release date.
I mean, the title I thought was pretty good. You know, Freakier Friday seems to make sense.
Maybe
Did not announce it.
doesn't look like they announced the release date, just 2025.
Yeah.
It could
I mean,
slip into the fall, maybe.
Yeah.
Although I think it'd probably be a good idea to get that out in the summer.
The first one I believe was an end of summer release, and it was a nice sleeper hit for Disney. So, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a similar situation for that one.
Should be fun. I mean, we've been getting a lot of Jamie Lee Curtis recently with The Bear.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, she's been in the spotlight a lot this decade between Everything Everywhere All at Once, Halloween 2 and 3, Halloween Kills and Ends, and then The Bear. So my guess is this is an August 2025 release date. Lilo and Stitch probably comes out in July, and we already know Elio comes out in June. And then we know we're going to get into Marvel, but we know they've got Marvel movies coming out in July also, and Disney has a lot of movies next year. They're making up for the ground that they lost this year by only releasing so much. Granted, they're the two biggest movies of the year so far. But they have a lot coming out. And then lastly, The Rock is doing some sort of Monster Jam movie, that demolition derby thing that goes around the football stadiums and with monster trucks. He announced that. Not really. I don't know too much else about it, but it's IP.
He loves doing these movies with Disney.
Yes, he's got a strong relation with Disney, unlike his relationship with Warner Brothers. So he's got to keep that one going. It's them and Universal that he seems to have relationships with, as he seemed to have already fucked up his one with Amazon and with Red One, and clearly Warner Brothers with Black Adam. But that's it on the Disney live action side. So we'll pivot to Marvel. So three of the items were already discussed at, only two of them were discussed at Comic-Con. So I guess we'll talk about those ones first. The movie side, we had Captain America: Brave New World and the Fantastic Four: First Steps. Shockingly, no mention of Blade. We don't know when that movie's coming out, but it's definitely not 2025.
Nope.
That was smart not to try to announce it again.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, also don't focus on an R-rated movie at D23, even if they had stuff to talk about. Obviously, they mentioned the success of Deadpool and Wolverine, but Feige made sure to say this was a relatively all audiences presentation. But yeah, we saw, unlike Comic-Con, I actually saw footage from this one this time. I believe you both did as well. So we saw Harrison Ford fully hulked out as Red Hulk, which looks like Harrison Ford as the Hulk.
I thought it looked good. I mean,
I thought it was
like
gonna
the Hulk animation, and it doesn't look goofy.
Yeah,
I thought it was going to, and it didn't.
Yeah, hopefully the reshoots that they did on this movie really pay dividends, and it ends up being, I mean, I'm not expecting Winter Soldier quality or anything like that, but hopefully it's somewhere in between Winter Soldier and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'd be happy with somewhere in the middle of those two.
Yeah, I would say, so they showed a lot of Harrison Ford talking as the president, which kind of felt like a little nostalgic for me with like the Air Force One. I mean, he just kind of delivers. All of his line delivery I thought was good and solid. Plot seemed interesting.
Yeah, he's got the
Seemed like
gravitas to be a president.
yeah. And he's not clearly too old because we have a current president who's fairly old. So
The same age, but Harrison Ford seems like he's a decade younger.
yeah, so it's definitely not beyond the realm of possibility that Harrison Ford could be our president.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it looked pretty good. There was a little bit of like sky shots and stuff like that where I was like, oh, the CGI doesn't look that good. So I have a feeling it's going to be probably a mix of good CGI and like bad CGI, kind of like
You don't have time still too.
Yeah, they got until February to still fix things. So
yeah, I have a feeling there's gonna be some Black Widow type.
I mean, remember She-Hulk? Even 2 months before the release date of that television show, how much different it looked. So,
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I hope they're out of their stage of bad CG. Because
They got shit on so much for that.
yeah,
I think there's gonna be some bad CG, but they got the Hulk right. It looks like, so that's probably the biggest thing to care about, and the storyline with how they get the adamantium is kind of cool.
Mhm.
Bring that into the universe. So
Yep.
yeah, I mean it looks interesting. I'm intrigued. I'm still like
Giancarlo Esposito looks like a badass.
yeah.
As he does, yeah.
I'm still kind of worried on this one, but I'm hopeful that it's. I mean, I've seen enough that I'm hoping it's at least good.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't think it's going to be amazing, but I'll take a good movie for sure.
That's fair.
For a movie that has been going through tons of reshoots, if it ends up just being good, then that'll be a
Yeah,
success.
I think that's a win for them for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, Anthony Mackie showed up for that one. They didn't talk about Thunderbolts at all. They did talk again about the Fantastic Four First Steps. They kind of showed the same footage from Comic-Con, but just slightly different.
They moved
because they've filmed a little bit since Comic-Con.
Yeah, and did they move the Galactus reveal?
The one I watched had it, unless it was really the Comic-Con one, but it looked different than what I remember seeing. And Galactus was at the end.
Yeah, or maybe I got a better look in this footage, but I felt like I got a much better line of sight into what Galactus would look like in this one versus the last one. I didn't know if that was just a better camera.
Might have just been
angle.
a better I think it was a better camera angle.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I think Fantastic Four, I mean, it's like you said, it was essentially the Comic-Con footage, but I think that I love the feel of this movie with like the jets. I mean, we talked about
it's Jetsons, retro future,
Jetson, retro future vibe and everything. And we got to see what the cast will look like in the movie.
Yep.
So Pedro is keeping the mustache.
Yeah, he's never losing that, no matter what role.
And then I mean they died. What's his face? His hair blonde. That seemed like
Joseph Quinn.
Yeah.
Joseph Quinn.
Tony Storm. Yeah.
And then everyone else kind of. I mean,
he's very low energy so far. I'm interested to see how his performance turns out. I mean, I doubt that's reflective of the full performance, but yeah, the interplay between Ebon Moss-Backrack as Ben Grimm and Reed Richards, Pedro Pascal seems like a lot of fun. But yeah, that seems like Marvel's big movie next year, and another Fox acquisition that they're relying on after Deadpool and Wolverine this year, and then Avatar the year before that. Yeah, we'll see if it pays dividends in July of 2025.
Yeah, it's starting to feel like that multiverse, like going that other direction, might have been the play. Because I like that version a lot, and then when they essentially bring them over, they can kind of do that fish out of water thing that works.
Yeah,
that works
so well in so many I mean, just look at like Cap and him coming into like from First Avenger to popping up in the Avengers, and how well that worked, or Thor coming from
The first
Asgard.
Thor,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So totally, I hadn't thought about that, but you're totally right. And then hopefully, and then we know we're getting Robert Downey Jr. and Fantastic Four. Like, there's no way in hell they're not having Doctor Doom show
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, they didn't like
Even if he just shows
announce
up in
that
a mask.
casting for
I
nothing.
mean, he's all back in on Marvel. Like, he's filming footage as Tony Stark now for the Avengers ride, the new Thanos ride that's opening in Disneyland. So Downey's fully back in, and he's going to pop up in things we're not expecting and things that we are expecting before we get to Doomsday. All right, then let's pivot to their TV side for the final 3 items. That was the main focus. They didn't focus at all on TV at Comic-Con, so that was the focus at D23, the main focus. So we got Agatha All Along debuting in September on Disney Plus. We got a new trailer for that. For a show that seemed completely unnecessary, a spinoff of a side character from WandaVision, it looks pretty original and like it could be a lot of fun.
I like the second trailer a lot more than the first one. A lot more.
Aubrey Plaza looks like she's going to be fantastic.
Music seems
a
good.
Real shock. Yeah, they got the same. They got Bobby Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez who did the music for WandaVision and the Frozen movies and Coco to do the music for Agatha All Along.
Yeah, it looks like fun.
Yeah, Catherine Hahn looks like she's going to be a blast. Coming around the holiday season.
I think that
spooky season.
People are always trying to watch that type of stuff around like the Halloween time, and so that'll be a fun watch once like the fall it starts kind of feeling fall, and you're trying to kind of get in that, like you said, spooky season vibe. I think that'll be a good watch. Kind of like how what was the name of that werewolf one? Werewolf by Night.
Yep.
Didn't that come out in the fall too?
Yeah, it came out in early October.
Yeah, so it kind of like that, where it's just kind of perfect timing to kind of capture that feel.
Yeah, definitely. Then I guess I'll talk about I'll talk about Ironheart, and then we'll talk about the other one that had us probably the most excited. That had us the most excited, I would say, of all of D23. So Ironheart, we got footage from that. A lot of the cast came out, and Ryan Coogler, who directed Black Panther and Wakanda Forever. This kind of seems like the end of an era for the old way of Marvel Studios producing television, where they just would like whip out 6 episodes, kind of like it, as if it was a long movie broken up into shorter episodes, versus creating a show like it was an actual TV show. And it also seems like the end of an era in that it's like tying in movies and TV shows, and having turning side characters into their own main character of a series. Because we didn't get any new announcements as far as things coming out after that. The only thing we're aware of is Vision, which is really just a sequel to WandaVision, more than like a spinoff. And that'll be under the Marvel Television banner and their new way of going about producing television. But it seems like Ironheart, I get the impression, is the swan song of the old way of doing things. We got a 2025 release date. We're not exactly sure when. Did the footage get you guys intrigued at all? I feel like this is a project that like everyone is just like, this is an unnecessary one. Why is it happening?
Yeah, no, didn't tickle my fancy at all.
I didn't see the footage. I think I had mentioned I had no desire to search it out, and then by the time you mentioned you saw it, I put in like a little bit of effort to find it, and I didn't find it super easily, and I was just like,
yeah, it gets like 3 link clicks if you can't find it from there. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the footage. I mean the highlight for me was Jim Rash from Community is the dean in Community is back playing the MIT head of MIT that he was playing in Captain America: Civil War, just for comedic purposes. So that doesn't really say too much about a action-packed Iron Man-y type project. That's a spinoff of a character from Wakanda Forever. I don't have any. I'll watch it. I don't have any real like beef with the show. I mean, it's got a solid cast with Anthony Ramos and Alden Ehrenreich supporting the actress who plays Riri Williams, aka Ironheart. Um, it just, I don't know. It just seems like it. My expectations are don't have it any higher than the Marvel TV shows of the past 5 years, because it seems like it's just going to be more of the same of that. And
Maybe it'll surprise us like Echo.
yeah, exactly. That's the hope. Echo at least had the TV MA rating in its side. It had characters from Daredevil in its side. Um, so rather than talk anymore about Ironheart, let's talk about Daredevil, Born Again. Um, this was what I was most excited about at Comic Con. We got the most footage in comparison to Andor from Daredevil. We had the entire cast from the original Netflix show, with the exception of Bullseye, that we know is coming back, all on stage. So we had Charlie Cox, Vincent D'Onofrio, um, uh, Alden Henson, Deborah Ann Wool, and John Bernthal all there. Um, so that was sick to see. Again, it's Disney going off the success of somebody else, um, off of the success that the previous Marvel television regime had with Netflix, and them accepting that, okay, what we were doing isn't working. We've retooled our show to be more like a Daredevil season 4, um, while new people can still come into the show and feel like it's a season 1. Or, I mean, it could technically be like a Daredevil season 7, because it's got two. You have what, 3 seasons of Daredevil behind us. You've got 2 seasons of Punisher, and you've got a season of Defenders. Um, so this is like the 7th season with these characters. Um, but
I'd like to know. I'd like to know what the original plan was.
oh yeah, and then you also had them in Hawkeye, in Echo, and
Yeah.
in No Way Home for a brief cameo. So yeah, the original plans, from what I heard, sucked.
Well, yeah.
You didn't even see Daredevil until the 3rd episode or 4th episode.
Who was?
Like you saw only Matt. He was never Daredevil.
Okay.
It sounded like it was going to be terrible. Didn't have the actress and actor playing Karen Page or Foggy Nelson back.
Yeah.
At that point, I don't think it had John Bernthal as well as Frank Castle / the Punisher.
Did they film the entire season and then scrapped it, or did they only get so far?
They only got so far before scrapping it. I think the strikes led to them being like, okay, time to scrap and start afresh.
Yeah. It was just a right time.
Yeah. But they had originally announced it as 18 episodes, and they like an 18-episode season.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And now it's been chunked. I think it's been broken off into, and then to two 9-episode seasons. Not even like 9-episode. Not even like a 9-episode block, and then another 9-episode block of seasons 1 and 2, but 2 distinct seasons. So maybe we'll have some other They haven't filmed the 2nd season yet. So maybe we'll have some more Defenders come back, like Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones, Mike Coulter as Luke Cage. That's always in the cards. But this seems like it's going to be their first legit ongoing show that maybe will last more than 2 seasons. The only ongoing show we've gotten so far has been Loki, and that was clearly designed to only be 2 seasons. So maybe this one will be one that goes for as long as audiences want it to go. But I think we're all relieved that it's a continuation of the Netflix show. It's got the similar tone to the Netflix show. What else you guys have to say about Daredevil Born Again, which is coming out in March?
I mean, I thought the trailer was great. Not only does it feel like a continuation of the Netflix show. It seems like they're matching, and I read that it's actually going to be more violent than
I read,
the Netflix
yeah,
show.
I've heard Vincent D'Onofrio say he's like, I
Yeah,
go further on this show than I did on the Netflix show.
yeah. So, which is really cool because I mean that show was violent for sure, but I think there definitely is room to go further, especially with what they did in Deadpool
Yeah,
just
but
recently.
Deadpool and Wolverine opened up the floodgates. There's
Yeah,
no reason why they need to censor anything anymore.
nope.
They already said fucking a PG-13 movie with Guardians.
Hmm.
They've done a TVMA show with Echo, but that didn't have any like foul language, but otherwise it was bloody.
Yeah,
But Deadpool Wolverine did it all. So Daredevil can go farther than the Netflix show probably with
yeah.
violence, with language, with everything.
It was a good
Um,
litmus test because now I'm sure they were paying attention to that too. Like it was well received. It didn't really, hurt them at all. So they
yeah,
can
it's one of their
release
biggest
some of that.
successes. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I really think Daredevil season 3 ended really strong.
oh hell yeah, it did.
Still have to watch it.
So
And
I like with 2 where it was kind of like I thought half of the season was strong, half of it wasn't.
Yeah.
3 I really loved, and the Bullseye character, they're basically setting him up for the 4th season in season 3, and so I think the fact that you see Bullseye in the trailer for this upcoming show, I mean, it makes me feel like, and you see Bernthal's Punisher, makes me kind of feel like it is a continuation of the
Yeah.
story, even though they're not calling it a season 4. I mean, it seems like all the characters from the prior seasons are here, so I'm excited. I really like the Netflix show. I really love season 1. Season 2 I thought was mixed, and then season 3 I was like, I'm back, and then I think like that whole Disney thing happened, right? And
yeah,
they basically said no more.
Disney Plus was launching, and Netflix said we don't want to promote anything that's Disney related anymore. So Netflix ultimately chose to cancel everything, but it was because
Okay.
of Disney Plus launching.
But that show, I mean, the season 3 was good. Like it deserved a season 4, and it was just because of this, crap that was going on with Netflix that they
Yeah.
didn't get it.
There was
And
like that 6-month period where every show got canceled that they had been working on.
Yeah, so
Netflix.
I'm excited, at the possibility that we can go back and, they can get that continuation that I think the show deserved. I think that, that they set up a season 4, and then it just we kind of got left hanging.
Yeah.
Now I'm motivated to go back and watch the shows that I missed on Netflix in hopes that we get more of those characters.
Yeah. You can watch them on Disney Plus now since Netflix ain't got them no more.
True.
And Doug, I would recommend watching Echo because it does set up Kingpin's story for Born Again. At least it seems that way, and he does feel like the Kingpin of the Daredevil TV show versus Hawkeye. Literally 3 hours of your time. 5 episodes. You can watch it in one sitting. But again, watch it if you choose to watch it when you're in the mood to watch it, and have moderate expectations so you don't come back at me like that thing fucking sucked.
That's fair.
But it could be a nice appetizer for Daredevil.
Did we get a
Born
date
Again.
for Born Again?
March of 2025. No actual concrete day, but March of 2025.
And I assume we're gonna get it. We're not gonna get it all at once. They're gonna release it drip feed over the course.
I would
of
imagine it's
months.
aired over a 9-week span.
And then we're going to get...
Maybe they'll
Does that
do the
mean
first 2 at once, and then
Yeah.
like a
Does
lot
that
of their
mean we
other
get
stuff.
the following season the following year? Is that what they're planning on doing?
If I had to guess, that's what it will be.
They're about to start filming.
I mean, after 2025, they have no live action shows other than Wonder Man. That is,
Which we didn't see any of Wonder Man.
We didn't see any of Wonder Man yet.
Who's in that again?
Yahya
Abdul-Mateen. Okay.
Abdul-Mateen. We know Ben Kingsley's back as Trevor Slattery. It's part of the Marvel. And Yeah, that's the only other show that's been filmed. Vision is the next one that's supposed to go into production, but don't know when that's happening. Um, Outside of Daredevil season 2 or Daredevil Born Again season 2. So yeah, that's D23. Again, not a lot of originality. A lot to look forward to, but again, not a lot of originality. A lot of nostalgia plays, a lot of piggybacking off the success of other people's work, whether it be the animators who created films close to 100 years ago, or Netflix, or Fox, et cetera, et cetera. George Lucas. There's only so much originality, but a lot we're going to be talking about in the future. So that's all we've got for today regarding our main topic of D23 2024. The next one will be in 2026, so we shall talk about that one then. Thank you again for listening. If you haven't already, please subscribe on wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And now, if you'd like to know how the summer's films will be performing at the box office and how they impact our summer box office pool, stick around for some quick end credit chatter. All right, guys. As far as the box office goes, we've got everything through Sunday, August 11th. So at this point, Deadpool and Wolverine is continuing to dominate 3 weeks in a row at the top of the box office. It's quickly become the highest grossing R-rated film of all time domestically and the second R-rated film of all time to top $1 billion worldwide. It's going to inevitably top Joker this coming week to be the highest grossing R-rated film of all time worldwide as well. So massive success for the MCU and Disney, and proving that an R-rated MCU movie can work. The Reynolds Lively family continued to have a great summer this past weekend with Blake Lively's adaptation of It Ends With Us, a novel that actually gave Deadpool and Wolverine a run for its money during the film's third weekend. It opened to 50 million versus Deadpool and Wolverine's 53 million. So they were pretty damn close. The book was by Colleen Hoover. There is a sequel novel, so it wouldn't shock me if that gets greenlit sometime soon. But then other than that, Borderlands, it just bombed really, really hard. For such a big budget film, I think the budget was like 120 million, something like that. They paid a lot for reshoots to have Tim Miller come in and have Eli Roth kind of step down. But that opened to a little under 9 million. So not good for Lionsgate. But bombs happen for every video game adaptation. That's a massive success. Of late, we will still have what has been more common, which are video game adaptations, which don't do well. Whether they're bad at non-faithful adaptations, just not good movies, or people just don't have the interest that these studios think they have, and they just don't translate from game to film. So, unfortunately, things didn't work out there. As far as the box office pool goes, Corey's in a distant third with 547 million. He still has Alien Romulus and The Crow to come out. Alien Romulus, I'm very interested to see how much this movie makes after the trailer playing before every showing of Deadpool and Wolverine, and hearing very positive things about early screenings and whatnot. The reviews should come out in the next day or so. It opens this coming weekend. It is the only film we've got drafted coming out this coming weekend. So we'll see how that performs. But it seems like it should be the biggest Alien movie since Prometheus. Doug, you are in second place with 814 million, only because Deadpool and Wolverine was cut in half. If it wasn't cut in half, you would currently have 1.06 billion. So your It Ends With Us pick was a very good late one, or I think you got it like maybe your fifth or sixth picks. Thank You're Six. It was a very strong one. Trap worked out very well not very well, but it worked out pretty well for you. It's already got close to 30 million. So it's doing good business for where you drafted in comparison to the movies that Corey and I drafted around that point in time. Harold and the Purple Crayon, you also had come out recently, and that was a big whiff. It's at 13 million total after 2 weekends. But we joked a lot about how we were expecting not much from it. Just like a lot of the movies we've drafted, we joked about how they didn't have much potential. And we were like, why did we end up drafting these movies? Especially after we saw trailers for them. Yeah. And then I'm currently in first place with 1.15 billion. I have one more film to release, Blink Twice, which opens in a couple weekends. I'm not expecting much from that. So it's going to be interesting to see where you end, Doug, in comparison to me, both without the stipulation and with the stipulation. I mean, I think I think at this point it's clear that you're going to win with no stipulation involved. With the stipulation, I think it's going to be much closer than expected, because Deadpool still has another 100-something million in the tank. We'll see how much It Ends With Us still has in its tank. Trap still has not much, but still has a little bit of money. It's basically Trap and Harold is kind of balancing out Twisters and Inside Out for me, among the movies that I still have making money.
I need It Ends With Us to really just have like a shit ton of staying power.
Yeah, it needs to be leggy, and not just be like a one and done weekend. And then you did also lose Horizon, An American Saga Chapter 2, which now I get the feeling that it's going to open in November. I know it's having its premiere at the Venice Film Festival. It doesn't have an official release date, but I've heard whispers of it opening in November in theaters. But that was one so you really got 5.5 movies or 6.5 movies in this draft, because you lost Horizon and then Deadpool was cut in half, which was your number one pick. So great draft overall for you. A better draft than me, quite frankly. It's just Inside Out 2. It's going to be also interesting to see which ends up being bigger, Inside Out 2 or Deadpool and Wolverine. They're both going to end up with somewhere in between 600 and 650 million. I mean, right now, Inside Out 2 has 636, and Deadpool and Wolverine has 493. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top among those, and if you can actually get above me before the summer ends. We'll have a better idea over the next 2 weeks. So anything you guys would like to add about the box office?
No. I'm definitely going to be interested to see what Alien does. If I can get it to make 1 point or $600 million.
Yeah, I guess yeah, because I don't think The Crow is making much of that 600 million. So yeah, you're relying on Alien. I will say I'm really annoyed about not drafting Longlegs, because I drafted 3 horror movies and 2 of them have bombed already, and well, at least relative to expectations or budget, they've been kind of bombs with Maxine and The Watchers, and I'm expecting Blink Twice to bomb. Longlegs was on my short list of movies to draft, and I didn't draft it.
I don't know why I didn't either.
That was a big fail because it's got $71 million right now.
Yeah, it's done very well for the movie that it was, and how much it cost to even make. It was cheap. It was a cheap film to make.
And there are so many genre movies opening this summer that Blink Twice just doesn't have a shot at making money. Like horror and slash as a genre, and even Alien falls into that category. So that's my one regret. I should have drafted Longlegs. I think if I drafted Longlegs, I wouldn't be as like. I feel like this was like kind of a lame victory if I do end up winning. But yeah,
win's a win.
Yeah, win is
ultimately
a win.
I'll take a win if it is a win. Yeah, we'll likely be drafting for the fall in our next episode, and we'll continue to talk about where we're at in the summer box office and have a much better idea about if we have a winner or not determined by that point. So yeah,
Good.
that's that. As always, this has been Corey, Doug, and Murph at Live Breathe Film. We'll see you again next time, film fans.
Bye.